Okay, we're not live yet. My internet connection, what could possibly be wrong with that? Let's try it again.
I know, I've been around about all these little details.
Wonder what the problem is. It's not connecting to my internet. Oh yeah, we're having a problem. Because even when I did Jackie's interview, but I just turned all of my devices off. Come on, really? When I did Jackie's interview, I'm going to disconnect also from my iPad. Maybe with too many things, I'll put it on airplane mode. There we go. And back to the file. There we go. All right, let's try that one more time. Because it was chunky, not chunky, but with Jackie's interview. Choppy.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm not live yet here, but I believe we're live already on YouTube. This is weird. This is weird. Okay, I just got an email saying that we're live on YouTube. So anybody following the live stream on YouTube, I hope you don't mind, but we're not yet connected to the other channels. So until I get a go-ahead on here saying that we are connected, having trouble connecting. So let me just check these out. This is rather strange. Ready to go live. We're not live yet, but why would YouTube send me an email saying that we are live? Luckily on YouTube, I can go in and edit the beginning. Having trouble connecting. Please check your internet connection. This is not fun. This is the first time this has happened. Okay, so what can we do that's different? I'm going to erase absolutely everything else I have on here. All right, we're fully connected. I'm going to go one more time, going live. Everything else is on airplane mode. Troubleshooting. LindaAnn Rogers, what is going on here? I'm going to have to go quickly to my YouTube account. All right. It's not connecting to my YouTube account, which means not yet. I'm going to have to go offline and then go back online. And I hope that our broadcast studio here doesn't. Okay, we're back. So, end broadcast. So we've been broadcasting live this whole time. Okay, now we're live. We are live. Unfortunately, I won't be able to cut off the beginning on the other platforms. Okay, some technical difficulties right there. But welcome to another live stream appointment of today's communicators. We are broadcasting now. Finally, we're broadcasting live to YouTube, to Facebook Business, and also to LinkedIn. Now, in there, but we've had some problems with the connection, and so we may have been live broadcasting to YouTube for quite some time without realizing it. So I'll go and check that out afterwards. But welcome to anybody joining the live broadcast, and welcome to any of you that are going to be joining or watching the recording of the broadcast. I'm your host, Kris Reichert. I am a video communications coach. Many of you know that, and I created this live stream appointment, today's communicators, so that we could open up a discussion and have a safe kind of platform for professionals to come in and talk about their insights, their industry knowledge, and really anything that would create high value for all of these platforms and for anyone who wants to bring a high value discussion into this appointment. So if anybody has any suggestions, just reach out to me personally and I'll get back to you. And we'll talk about that. All right. So I'm excited to announce my guest today in the broadcast studios with me. We are going to be discussing today how employee engagement can literally increase profitability for companies. Please let me welcome business coach and founder of Aspire to Align. I love that name for a company, LindaAnn Rogers. Hi, LindaAnn. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. You are in definitely a different time zone. You're not in Eastern Standard, but you are in Pacific?
I'm in Mountain Time, so I'm in
Mountain
Colorado.
Time, that's it. So you are 7 a.m., whereas I am 3 p.m. over here in Central European Time, because as many of you know, I'm based in beautiful Italy, which is boiling hot right now. And what about you? How is it over there in Mountain Time?
Well, I think boiling hot is different for mountain people. So when we get into the mid 80s, we're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, over here in Italy, I mean, I used to think that this was the kind of climate that I would love to live in, but when you live in it for long enough, I can't wait to get back home to Canada this summer, where it's mild, where it's not so hot. But anyway, let's not talk too much more about the weather, because I'm really excited to dive into today's topic. You know, we're going to be discussing how many organizations are lacking the structure to create this engagement in their employees, and the companies are suffering for this. Because without employee engagement, you're not getting that fluidity, you're not getting the profitability, you're not getting a company that's running in a very smooth fashion. Am I right, or am I right?
Oh, absolutely. And there's, today there's statistics that show that, 80 engaged employees are 20% more profitable, but only about 20% of employees overall are actually engaged at work. So that's a huge level of employees that are not fully engaged and really are costing companies money.
Oh yeah, that's a huge number. And I can imagine, because when you've got happy employees, you've got a happy company. I mean, everyone, when they're in a serene and in a balanced workplace, then they're going to feel better about the work they're doing. And that's going to be it's going to become more productive, and then of course more profitable for a company. So when you talk about the workplace though, and to have employees that are more engaged in the workplace, do you mean by that you would need to change the way people experience work in order to have that shift and in order to have more engagement?
Absolutely. And one of the keys really there's 3 basic levels, and the most important level to start with is the foundational level, and that is clarity of purpose. And when an organization can communicate why they exist and what they do for the world clearly to both their customers and their employees, it makes a huge difference. And often what happens is when an entrepreneur starts a company, they understand that they should have a mission, a vision, some values, and so forth. But the communication process for that can be improved, let's say that way. And often, when you see someone's mission statement, it's usually this paragraph of complex sentences and information that isn't very memorable, honestly. And instead of doing and they're trying to fit too much information into that piece of that paragraph or that statement. And so if you break it down into really, why did you as an entrepreneur start this company? What was your passion about? Then people can connect to that. They can remember it. They can find purpose in it, and they can use it as a guidepost. But often, if you look at someone's mission statement, it just kind of makes your head hurt.
Yeah, it's so true. It's daunting, isn't it?
Right,
It's like, whoa, that's a lot to take in, and you almost want to take a step back, and it makes you sure. You probably think, wow, they're really onto something huge, because I understood half of what they're doing, really. Because if you break it all down, just like you're saying, and you just use simplistic terms, anybody can really connect with that, because anybody can understand it. And then you can really jump in and understand where the synergies can take place, and where you can start talking the same language. Yeah.
And so one example of that is to just have a single sentence statement, and kind of like Disney theirs is to make people happy. And so everything that they do is to make people happy, and it helps with decision making. And for me, I want to change the way people experience work. And so everything I do is focused on helping businesses change the way people experience work, so that they get up on Monday morning and go, yeah, I'm excited about going to work today because it makes a difference.
Exactly. And I mean, there's so much talk. I'm probably going to get off subject right now, but so much talk, and you see it all over social media, on people that are trying to push this whole idea of not working the 9 to 5, not working for a company, not being an employee, but yet branching out, doing your own thing, becoming an entrepreneur. And sometimes it's just not for everybody. Why not instead do what you're doing by creating instead a healthy environment for employees to communicate in a healthy manner, to feel good about waking up in the morning, to feel great about their job, working for an employer and going, to a 9 to 5 job. What there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's what makes people feel safe, and if they can be happy about going into work, then I don't see why we need to be pushing this narrative of being entrepreneurs at all costs.
Well, and part of it is because employees aren't really finding that flexibility in the workforce. And when you look at things, the model we've had, especially pre-pandemic, there were some people going to, remote work before then, successfully. But the business model that we had been using is 100 years old. It's the Industrial Revolution business model, right? And so that isn't how we do business. We don't go to the factory anymore for the most of us. And so we have more flexibility, and that model doesn't really work because of the way we do work now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is part of the resistance is just people's normal resistance to change, and the fact that it's unfamiliar. When you look at what leaders are doing, they don't know how to do this and make it work and make it successful. So they want to go back to the way it was, which is normal human behavior.
Right.
But learning
it's the comfort zone, right?
Exactly. Right. So when employers go ahead and embrace the change, and there's ways to look at how to make this successful, and it's a very broad scope of the possibilities of how we can make this work and still have all of the good things about the camaraderie that people are worried about missing. We can make it work for people now and have it be successful and have that flexibility, because the 9 to 5 is a little bit arbitrary. Basically, it's what the agrarian society used because of the fact that they needed the sunlight.
Right. Absolutely. And would you say then that this is one of the main reasons why organizations are not in alignment, is mainly because they're regressing back to the archaic model of doing business? And when I talked earlier about the 9 to 5, or I suppose what I was trying to get at is that we can create even a balanced workplace where there is that serenity even within the archaic model, so that until we're still seeing that, we have to kind of like adapt to anyway, even if it is an old and outdated business model that we're using. So the question would be, would you say that's one of the main reasons why organizations are out of alignment?
I think one of the main reasons that organizations are out of alignment is because they don't really completely understand the concept and the value of it. Often when you've got an entrepreneur who starts a company, they are a technical person, right? Whatever that is, whether it's a computer, analyst, or a baker, or whatever it is, it's their technical expertise that helps them decide that they want to go ahead and be an entrepreneur or be on their own. And that is a very small piece of running a business. And so what often happens is, and it's described in the book called E-Myth, is that the passion, they lose their passion for what they're doing because it's all about, the marketing, which they've never done. It's all about the accounting, which they're never done, and all those kinds of things that are the pieces of making a business run, but it has nothing to do with their technical expertise. So they are not versed in management or understanding the value of aligning their people with that purpose. And what you would start with is having that clear purpose as a foundation, right? So that you can connect people to it, having a few values. I've worked in organizations before where there was a list of 15 values on a wall. And it's like, how do you use those to guide you if there's so many? And then you need something that when times get tough, when the pandemic strikes, or there's, a technological change or whatever it is, or some crisis happens in your industry, that you have a way to make decisions, right? It's all about making those having those guideposts to help you make those clear decisions to keep you on track.
Right.
And then you go to your strategy. People go from their purpose and their values, and then they go to their goals. What they often forget is, okay, we can have goals, but you need the strategies that you're going to use to implement the process of achieving those goals. That strategy piece is often completely missing. And then the biggest gap is often taking leadership and making sure that they are aligned with those strategies, that whatever their performance expectations are, it's about creating success in achieving those strategies. And that starts the process of alignment.
Right. Exactly. And the employees, what's usually a good tell sign if the employees are engaged or if they're not engaged? I mean, how can you really fully understand if you've got employees that are feeling engaged?
There's a couple of things, but one of them is that the definition of employee engagement is really that an employee will use that discretionary energy to do their job. And I think of the times, when it's Friday afternoon at 4:59 and the phone rings and the caller ID pops up and it's this client that maybe they don't want to talk to, whatever that is. And the engaged employee might shake their head and walk over and pick up the phone, but they're going to pick up the phone and get what the client needs and whatever. The disengaged employee will say, nope, I'm done. Pick up their coat. I'm out of here, and now pick up the phone. That's just a very stark example of the difference. The other one is that engaged employees will take responsibility for their performance. They don't find excuses for why something didn't go well. They'll take the time or put in the effort to say, well, that didn't go well. Let me fix that or figure out why, and take the energy to go ahead and make it better. So
I can totally see that. What came to mind is when you were talking about punching the clock, was that Fred Flintstone. Do you remember as soon as it would be that time, I think the bone bell would ring and he would be out of the office punching his time, and that's it. Nothing would stop him. And it's funny that that's an analogy that is quite archaic if you think about it in Neanderthals, because it is an old way of working and of being, right? Whereas now we've got these flexible kind of where employers are giving employees this newfound freedom to create their hours, but have the responsibility of doing what they need to do as long as it gets done. And they can put in the amount of hours that they need to get that done. And this is where you can definitely create a more harmonious working environment, whether it's hybrid, whether it's remote or in person. So, yeah. So I totally see that an employee that's engaged will go a little bit of the extra mile, will be like, I want to do this because I want to conclude what I started doing this week. And I'm going to take that client call at 4:59. So, yeah.
Well, and that's because they're feeling connected to the purpose. I have a couple examples of how engaged employees actually feel when we're connected to the purpose. And years ago, I worked did some administrative work at an insurance agency. And I remember talking to one of the insurance agents and asking them, why did they like what they did, all those kinds of things. And for him, it wasn't about how many sales calls he made or the fact that he was working evenings or things like that. What made the difference to him was he knew that when tragedy would strike a family, if they had engaged in having the insurance that he sold, that family would then be able to keep their house, whoever was left, right? That the kids would have a stable home, that they'd be able to pay for college or whatever it is. And he had seen that end result, and it made a difference. And he knew what would happen if he didn't get them the support that they needed. And so that's what he really was connected to. And if you think about what you do, Kris, it's not just about helping people perform better on video or speak better. It's about helping them get their message across clearly. And that transformative message makes a difference to many people that can change other people's lives. So it has a huge down the line impact. And so when you can see that difference, it changes the way you approach your daily life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that, LindaAnn. I really appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. With what you're doing with, I can say across the board, all coaches, what we're doing now is we're really trying to impact in a positive way other people's lives. It is a new kind of a somewhat new profession. And you do see a lot of coaches out there these days, but I think it's because there is this global desire to be of service to the world and to really help people and to make that difference. And we can really, it's like for example, myself, I have the experience, but I don't have the certifications. So I have 20 plus years, 25 years working in broadcast media for MTV as a VJ and on television, and 12 years of doing live radio. So that experience in broadcast media, I've got it, and I transformed it into a coaching program. But I never expected the gratification from really doing what I do and seeing other people step into their greatness. And having seen that gratification, I just can't wait to keep going and going and going and really hopefully make this a thriving career, because I love watching people and assisting people to really do their absolute very best and to be able to communicate on an authentic level. And that's just what you're doing too, LindaAnn. You've got a mission statement that's wonderful. You want to go in and help organizations so that employees can be, why don't you tell me exactly? And that way I won't be paraphrasing your beautiful words. But yeah, we all have these powerful missions that we're on, right? So tell me, what would be kind of in a pitch form, your mission statement?
Well, I'm going to use an example for instead. Okay. And one of my favorite stories is the story of President Kennedy in the 60s, when he would, and it makes me tear up every single time I tell the story. He went to visit NASA, and he was walking through the hallways, and he came upon a gentleman who was a member of the custodial staff. And he asked the gentleman, "What do you do here?" He said, "I help put people on the moon." Wow. And to have employees in an organization as large as NASA have that sense of purpose is amazing. And to me, it's the absolute, North Star for what we all need to aspire to. And especially as leaders, what leaders need to do to help employees feel that way. And think about what your company would look like if all your employees had that sense of purpose and felt connected and felt valued on that level.
Wow, exactly.
So
I so appreciate you, LindaAnn. Such a lovely human being, and just showing your vulnerabilities and your sensitivities here during this live stream. You have no idea how much I appreciate you and value you, and I'm blown away. I love it. I have a tendency to also be like an open book with my emotions. And so I so appreciate that when I see it in another individual, without these barriers and these shields that people or that we can tend to put up and not expose those inner workings of our beautiful selves. So there we have it. Now tell me something about you.
That's my goal, is to get organizations to be able to do that and to help their leaders understand what it takes to do that.
Love it. Beautiful mission statement. Absolutely love it. So tell me something about you. Now I want to know more about LindaAnn Rogers. Tell me something that not many people know about you. Maybe just your close family and friends, and something that you'd like to share with us.
Well, I just, starting this company for me is a really big deal, because especially as the way I was raised and so forth, it was more of a, other people do that and you work for a company and you do what you need to do. And for me to step out on my own at this point in my life and to take on this mission I've really had for 30 years. I learned what the value of organizational alignment 30 years ago. And so it's a huge gift to myself and to whomever I work with, to be able to do this now. And what makes me able to do it differently than others is this is my 5th career. I started out as an educator. I taught 7th grade for 7 years, and that will teach you a whole lot. And and then I was in, because my degree's in health education, I went into health and wellness and did the corporate marketing for a major hospital for 7 years in the DC area. And so I understand the whole marketing and sales of an organization. I understand the training and education for an organization. And then I was in benefits and compensation for a while, and then moved into the human resources arena. So my background, for the most part, and I did bookkeeping and accounting. So my background really provides me insight into all aspects of a business. So when I go into work with a company, I see it through all those different lenses and can really approach the process with a holistic lens.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love that. I mean, you were mentioning earlier on during the live stream that sometimes founders, they start their businesses and they start their businesses without knowing all of those different aspects. They had the passion that kept them up at night, and they launched their business and they're so excited about the product or the service or whatever it is they're doing, but yet they don't know anything about marketing. You know everything about everything, like bookkeeping, market. You've got all aspects covered. You're the perfect entrepreneur. Oh, my goodness. And then you push yourself to learn also all of the other areas. Yes. And hats off to you, LindaAnn. That is so impressive. I love it. I love what you're doing. Now, when would you say was a real pivotal moment for you? Something that happened in your past that was that moment in which you could identify as, before that moment, I was like this. After that moment, I was like this. And that's what brought you to do what you're doing now.
Well, the thing that really brought me to do what I'm doing now it happened, like I said, 30 years ago. And I was working in the hospital and just by happenstance, I was given the document where they had done their planning for the next 3 to 5 years. And it was, what are their goals, strategies, those kinds of things. And I remember I remember where I was standing at the time and looking at it and trying to figure out, what does this mean to me? And how can I use this to guide what I was doing and my team? And it struck me at that point when I finally figured out that what I did had an impact on how the organization met its overall goals and how I could contribute to that. And it was different too, because, being in the administrative marketing kind of arm of a hospital that has a whole different focus was key for me, because I still needed to feel like I needed to contribute to what they were doing in the care of human beings. So that was really where I came to understand how all the way down the line, if you make sure that everything is feeding into each other, it makes a difference. And one image I want to leave with leaders is when you're not aligned, think of those, those champagne towers, okay? That when you pour the bottle of champagne in the top, it
It
all
pours to
fills,
all the different
right?
levels.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it happens, it's really cool. It happens in the other direction for organizations, but when it happens, it's really cool. But if one of those glasses is off, just even a little bit, when you pour that champagne in, it creates a mess.
Yeah.
And it's a huge waste of energy and so forth. So when you think about, well, they're just off in a little bit or they're not completely aligned, that's still tapping a lot of energy, a lot of money, and taking away from the rest of the organization.
Yeah. I love that analogy. That was fantastic, in fact, because if one of them is just a bit off, the whole thing
Doesn't
falls
work.
apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, do you see anything in the workplace or in these organizations or in society today that just bothers you? Is there anything out there that really bothers you that you wish you could change? Well, apart from what you do with your coaching, but just on a maybe in social media or in the world today with with today's leaders. I don't know. Anything come to mind that really bothers you?
Yes. And
Okay.
that's when people are underestimated and not utilized to their maximum potential. And there's a couple examples here. One is so often, and I've experienced this, where in human resources, you're asked to recruit for a certain position, and the hiring manager is like, I need this person, they need to have this criteria, and you look for this unicorn, and then when you hire them and get them on board, they don't listen to them, right? The person will give them the feedback and they don't pay any attention to them. I could have hired, this 3-year person out, and they would be giving them the same respect, really, in what they have to offer the organization, and so the other, and related to that is when you take the restrictions off, and this is part of the challenge I think leaders are having with their adjustment to remote work, is they're used to managing tasks and activity instead of results. And when you just give people, I need you to achieve this result, and empower them and remove the roadblocks to achieve that result, they will do it and go beyond. And I learned that from kids. When I taught school, we impose our expectations on them, and they can achieve so much more.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What comes to mind, and I'm going to bring up an example, and I hope that that's in alignment with what you're talking about. When I first started working for MTV, and that was here in Italy. And I think that back then, I started at MTV in 1998. So I think that back then, some leaders of organizations in Italy, and maybe, that was not North America, obviously. So I think that they had gone to some kind of like how to be a leader type training. And it was this archaic way of being a leader in a big company, even though MTV was a huge international company. But for some reason, something happened in the workplace that was just terrible. And I talk about it even today, but it was where we were put down. I was put down and told that I had no value. My program was at number one. And I was on, along with my other colleague, the other Kris. We were the Kris and Krises. And we were on covers of all the magazines. We were number one everywhere. We became icons all over Europe. And our boss wanted to tell us that we were worth nothing, because he didn't want us to leave MTV and he didn't want us to feel too confident. So he rather put us down. So we were told that we're nothing. All we know how to do is read a teleprompter. And anyway, it was kind of damaging. And what that did as a result is it created this non-desire to work for the company. It didn't keep us in our place. It
Exactly.
kept us with that feeling of insatisfaction. We
Mhm.
didn't want to work for a company that didn't believe in us. So it did the exact opposite. And I think that that can kind of relate to what happens in the workplace when someone gets hired, but then they're not even listened to, like you were saying, or they're not given the value that they deserve. And so,
Absolutely.
it creates this, something breaks
Mhm.
instead of being mended. Yeah. And so alignment, goodbye. And instead, tell me something, LindaAnn, that really lights you up, something that makes you just full of light that you love.
Oh, going skiing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
What
that's
is it
why
about
I
going
moved out
skiing?
here.
Is
I
there
love it
something
here.
so incredibly meditative about going skiing? Tell me something you love about skiing.
You get to be a kid. You get to go play in the snow. It
Ah.
doesn't matter how good a skier you are. You know, the first when you're in the woods and it's snowing and whatever, and even when I was with teaching my daughter to ski when she was young, I would always make sure that we stopped and paid attention to the amazing gift that we had being in that environment, you know. But then it doesn't matter. You just go play in the snow. You get to be a
Yeah.
kid again. And there,
Oh, I
it's
love
like
it.
holy ground. You know, nothing else. The rest of the world doesn't even enter.
My goodness, I've got to come out and go skiing with you one day. Where is it again? You're in Denver.
Yeah, I'm outside. I'm about half hour west of Denver, towards the
Okay.
mountains. Yeah,
I've got to make it out there one day. Um,
absolutely.
LindaAnn, I love to usually conclude these live stream appointments with a beautiful and inspirational quote. Do you have a quote that comes to mind that is relevant to your business and that you like to, to leave people with as inspiration?
Oh, absolutely. Courage for me is a key value and a key driver in my life. And so for me, it's, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the acknowledgement of the fear and
Mm.
choosing to walk through it anyway.
Love it. Love it. I've got a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And it's
Mhm.
kind of similar to that. It's the acknowledgement of the fear. And that's what
Without
courage.
without the fear, there wouldn't be a need for courage, right?
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. LindaAnn, how can people get in touch with you if they'd like more information on your business coaching and on your business Aspire to Align?
They can go ahead and contact me at l.rogers at Aspire to Align, l.rogers at aspiretoalign.com, or just go to my website, aspiretoalign.com, and on the book a call page, go ahead and set up a call.
Fantastic. And also in the bottom of this, in the description of this live stream, I also have your LinkedIn account, your profile. So
Perfect.
people can click on that and also find you there. This has been fantastic. You have inspired me, LindaAnn. I love everything you said today. I love your mission. I love what you're doing. And I love your perspective on how to really increase employee engagement and serenity in the workplace in order to create productivity and profitability. So thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for taking the time to interview me and give me this time with you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, LindaAnn. And thanks to anybody following the live stream and any of you that are watching the recording. I will be back in no time, probably next week, with another appointment of today's communicators. So stay tuned and I will let you know when that will be. So thanks so much. Bye, everybody. And bye, LindaAnn. Thanks again.
Take
Ciao,
care.
ciao. Ciao.